And you know what? Since I've been doing it, I've noticed I've gotten more hair growth here. And you know, I don't know if the camera's catching it, but I had a really, really big bald spot here, and it's little by little, it's starting to fill in.
What's up guys, Derek, more PlateSmart8s.com. Today we're going to be checking out and reacting to the product helping Dave regrow hair, Astaire custom review. So we see Dave bending over, showing his hair progress, presumably. We see in the picture here, Oxano Grow Serum A GHK. Is this GHK Copper or just GHK? Oxano Grow Serum B C60. Okay, so these are two compounds I'm relatively familiar with and things I've used on myself. I've actually used C60 on my hair. I have also used GHK on my face and my hair, as well as injected systemically. So I have decent amount of experience with these and have a reasonable idea of their efficacy. We actually BioBro Vigorous Steve just finished an experiment of multiple months for injecting himself with 10 milligrams of GHK copper on a daily basis. So I've had a fuck ton of anecdotal feedback at this point, as well as personal experience to kind of give my insight on how viable I think a topical formulation would be of these things, given the clinical literature available and whatnot. So I guess let's see what Dave has to say. As you would expect, a fuck ton of people sent me this when you have a, you know, speculative hair loss product. And if it's providing results or anything that's kind of unique and new and innovative, people are going to tag me. And I'm sure in the comment section here, I'm probably in here somewhere. Let's see. I can see the primer, Dave. You need a rattle can of satin black. Dave has SMP, so you won't be able to tell real hairs from tattoo hairs. Will this work on growing my pubes back? Derek from MPMV is going to crucify this, LOL. Oh, shit. Let's see. Truth be told, Don Palumbo would look 10 times more vicious and scary if he shaved his head. Well, at least we know, at least he's not pushing fibrillized today. So one thing I can say off the bat, by the way, about hair loss prevention and Dave's content that I really don't like is he often promotes, I think it's Testalize as a natural alternative to 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride when he himself uses finasteride. So he often mentions how using natural over-the-counter 5-AR inhibitors like saw palmetto, I believe is in this product, is a reasonable entry point to 5-alpha reductase blockade, which, like, I suppose you could argue it's a more benign entry point, but ultimately, like, it's a ticking time bomb with this shit. The longer you wait, the more miniaturization is going to happen to a point that you can't really, it's really hard to get back ground you've lost. Like, preventing loss is one thing. That is, you know, the proactive way to go is always is going to result in the greatest retention of hair long-term by a mile. If you start letting it go, it's very hard to regain lost ground. So it's always better to be proactive and prevent it rather than using like speculative natural shit and hoping it moves the needle as much as something that is a targeted action on the actual enzymatic process itself. Like, why the fuck would you use a random route when you could otherwise use a drug that is targeted literally for enzymatic inhibition with no other satellite interactions that are significant, rather than some fucking random route that has a bunch of other problems with it potentially and is not as potent to begin with the inherent parent activity that you're trying to actually get out of it. Let's see. Please remove the video, Dave. You take finasteride and had a hairline transplant. All these products are cheating us men who really don't need to be taking for a ride during times of anxiety and depression, losing our hair, false sense of confidence. He's had a hair transplant. Okay, so this doesn't sound fucking good, dude. So let's see and get into it here. I got 1 minute and 21 seconds into it before I decided this was okay, it's reasonable to react to. Let's restart this shit.
With an RX Muscle product review, and if you guys had saw my interview with Jay Campbell about a month or two ago, we talked about a hair regrowth product called Astaire Custom, and this is his company. And I've been trying this product now for about 2 months, and I got to tell you, I really like it. And you know, the science of this product is it's a two vial product essentially. You spray on the one.
Yeah, so he says the science of this product is it's a 2 vial product. So did I Like, we're missing what the science of this product is off the bat. But let's continue. Like, I don't know why he mentioned that and then is breaking down the format, but all right.
Product, and this is the this is what contains what we call a copper peptide. And the copper peptide,
okay, here we go,
is known to cause revascularization of the scalp, meaning it brings new blood vessels into there, and it opens up the ability for the hair follicle to regrow. The second product is a bunch of essential oils, but in this essential oils is something called carbon 60, and this thing helps the copper peptide actually penetrate into your scalp.
Okay, so off the bat, in terms of penetration, actually getting through this is a picture of the human skin here, and up here, notably, we have the stratum corneum, and actually penetrating this with these compounds. Is this something like, besides the actual effects of these compounds, and if there's any clinical evidence to support their efficacy in a hair loss prevention context, in a growth stimulatory context more specifically, because again, are these things going to attenuate dihydrotestosterone to any significant extent? No, they're not. They're going to be used as growth stimulants rather than any sort, or mitigating some sort of oxidative stress, inducing super physiological vascularization through the GHK copper, whatever it is. Like, it's not actually addressing the androgen vector whatsoever. So anyways, are they actually going to get in there to begin with? Let alone is their actual inherent pharmacologic activity useful? Well, this is the stratum corneum, and if you've ever heard of the 500 Dalton rule, this is a rule that is commonly adhered to by cosmetic companies in order to ensure adequate absorption. So when you look at something's molecular mass, we try to figure out, is this going to be a viable compound to actually penetrate the scalp and get in there and do what it's supposed to do? And when you look at something like carbon 60, we see it is 720.6 Dalton. So is this something we can reasonably expect to penetrate the stratum corneum effectively? Probably not, to be honest. Now again, is this a hard and fast rule that applies for everything? Not necessarily. We see interesting outcomes with topical dutasteride, and if you look at dutesteride's molecular mass, 528. So, it doesn't really pass the, 500 Dalton rule necessarily, but it definitely gets in there and it fucking does something. But 720 is obviously a decent amount higher than 500. So again, is C60 going to penetrate and actually even get to where it needs to be to begin with? Hard to say for certain. Is this something that actually works for androgenic alopecia? There's basically no evidence to support that this or GHK copper really does anything. Now, GHK copper, 403 Daltons, this can actually penetrate effectively and, do something. However, in actual practical application, doesn't really move the needle. I've gone through all of the literature, and any kind of citations with companies that are selling this kind of stuff in general are basically speculative in vitro assays, rodent models, things that do not really apply to humans with androgenic alopecia at all. We can extrapolate potentially based on, mechanism of action, some of the promising health promoting properties of these compounds. Like, I do think there is an application for both of these compounds. I just don't think they move the needle in an androgenic alopecia setting. And is that, just based on the lack of human data to support their efficacy? No, it's also in practical application. I did not see them move the needle personally whatsoever. I used these years ago, and I've had a lot of friends who have tried this shit and didn't really do anything, unfortunately. Like, ultimately, when you look at growth stimulants, there is not that many things that are that useful. Like, the main thing that you're probably already aware of, minoxidil. And again, even that, a lot of people are non-responders to it. Fortunately, there are, unique novel approaches to minoxidil application that can significantly enhance an individual's response and convert non-responders into responders through manipulating the enzymatic conversion pathway of sulfotransferase enzyme activity via things like tretinoin being compounded into your minoxidil, using microneedling to enhance absorption, using higher concentrations of minoxidil where warranted, making sure your scalp environment is fucking clean for adequate absorption to begin with. This kind of stuff can be quite useful and is ultimately the biggest needle mover in the growth agonist category. And things like GHK copper and C60, unfortunately, I've not seen too much promise in, both clinically as well as anecdotally. But again, sometimes anecdotal feedback will, be useful to reference if something does actually move the needle for somebody. Like, we'd want to know for sure. Like, I don't know, like something like MK677, not something I would recommend using necessarily as a monotherapy option or even as a primary growth stimulant for hair loss. But it was interesting nonetheless that when I used it, I noticed the more potent growth effect in a density aspect than any growth hormone preparation I'd ever used. And I've used some pretty fucking potent GH in my day, as well as growth hormone precursors through GHRPs and GHRHs used concurrently. And yet this secretagogue seemed to produce the greatest increase in density and hair growth acceleration that I've ever had. Doesn't mean I'd recommend it, but like some of that stuff you only find out by accident through your anecdotal findings. So I wouldn't disregard it entirely just based on the lack of clinical literature, but let's continue.
And I'm this very big advocate of nutrition, obviously. You know that. I talk about supplementation all the time, but no one really addresses scalp nutrition, and that's what these products do. Rather than some kind of miracle hair regrowth, they kind of target, hey, let's nourish the scalp, let's bring new blood supply to the scalp, and that's going to help the hairs regrow there. And you know what? Since I've been doing it, I've noticed I've gotten more hair growth here. And I don't know if the camera's catching it, but I had a really, really big bald spot here, and little by little it's starting to fill in. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I noticed that I have hair there now that wasn't there before. They're small hairs and they're starting to grow.
So personally, I don't watch a lot of RX Muscle content anymore, to be honest, but without seeing like a photo trichogram or something that can assess like before and after hair count, I don't really know how much I can gather from this, because it does not really look much different than what I remember for him, to be honest. And I do know, like based on the comment section, he's had shit like SNP, he uses finasteride, he's had transplants done. Is he using minoxidil with microneedling? Does he, follow the most tried and true shit? Potentially add that in. Those are gonna move the needle in a significant context, and then adding this in on top, like, how can we attribute, I don't know what to make of this, It doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem like anyone's really on board. Like the like to dislike ratio is pretty not favorable, and I think people can like smell when something's off, Let's see. Sorry today, this blah, blah, blah. Looking good, Dave. Stop the BS. It's either minoxidil or finasteride. There is no third option. Yeah, like obviously there's shit that works alongside it. Topical anti-androgens, other things that enhance minoxidil absorption and or efficacy, more potent 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. But ultimately what he's saying, there's only so many things that move the fucking needle. And to be honest, I have not seen these products, unfortunately, do that. I would love to have something natural, over the counter, that is some significant additive in a growth stimulatory context, but these didn't do fucking shit for me, to be honest.
But it's filling in this crown area that I was missing a lot of hair. I've had hair grafts in the past done, and that's for the front.
And by the way, the shit I use, like for GHK copper, right from the pharmacy.
Because I'm very vain, obviously. I don't want to lose my hair. Like some guys don't care, they shave their head. I didn't want to lose my hair, but there's nothing they could do for the crown area other than take, finasteride, which kind of blocks DHT and helps. That helped a little bit. Kind of stopped my hair loss, but I still had, loss in the crown area.
Yeah, so what he said just there is totally accurate. Like when you're that far gone, adding in finasteride stops further loss, but it's not going to regrow you to baseline. That's why you need to be proactive. Like this kind of shit, even if you get in front of 5-alpha reductase inhibition with a huge blockade with dutasteride, are you going to regrow hair to baseline? No, you're not. That's where getting ahead of it before you get to that point is fucking critical. So that's why being proactive is definitely the way to go. Getting on a regimen before you even notice it, unfortunately, is ultimately what you got to do.
And there's nothing, when they do hair grafts, there's not enough donor hair to do your whole head, so they usually do the front so that you have some coverage up there. But this product, since I've been using it, really has worked in the sense that I see new hair. Now, how much it's going to work, I'll only know down the road, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to give myself a year on this product to really see how much I can regrow, and I'll keep doing updates and letting you guys know. If anyone's interested, you can go to their website at acrcustom.com, I believe. Tyler can pull it up. And if you use the coupon code HUGE, that's HUGE15, you'll get 15% off of this product. The key, however, is, once again, just like a nutritional supplement, you got to keep doing it. You got to nourish that scalp. If you have, something kind of deficit in the area, or there's a lack of blood supply there, if you want this stuff to grow back, it's not going to happen overnight. And so you got to.
This kind of stuff, let's see. Most peptides are too large to be absorbed in the skin. Acier Custom's copper peptide GHK copper hits a sweet spot for absorption, generating stem cell production, improving skin elasticity and firmness, and even regrowing your natural hair. The effects of Acier Customs products are so profound for me and my wife. They are a must-add to your daily anti-aging stack. I like Ben Greenfield, but I have a hard time taking him seriously when I see shit like this, personally.
Got to really give your body time to, number one, regrow the hairs, but number two, establish this new blood supply there, and also obviously provide the scalp with the right nutrition and nourishment that it needs. And I feel that there's a lot of good science behind this product. I do like what I'm seeing.
That's my problem, is the lack of science, personally. I see no, show me some sort of credible trial using these things in humans for androgenic alopecia. I see more promising data using fucking peppermint oil compared to minoxidil than I do with a fucking GHK copper topical, to be honest. And that's that doesn't say much. There's so many different studies using random essential oils that are somehow on par with 2% minoxidil and shit like that. And yet, in a human setting, we don't really have any evidence supporting the efficacy of these products at all that I've seen. Yeah, it's unfortunate, because I was really hoping this stuff would move the needle too when I used it. I spent a fuck ton of money on it back in the day too, before I had access to, cost-effective alternatives through my pharmacies and shit. I tried this stuff through injecting myself with fucking research chemical GHK copper, lab tested as well, third party. But I had to spend my own money on it to fucking ensure that, as well as different topicals, and eventually working with the pharmacies that we're partnered with at this point, getting topical compounded creams made, getting topical solutions made, getting injectable preparations made. And then the C60, you're not going to get that through a fucking pharmacy, but you get the highest quality you can get access to. And I do think they have potential applications, like GHK copper, very useful in an injury recovery context that I've seen anecdotally. C60, I think, could be a good anti-aging health thing systemically, potentially, but in a hair loss androgenic alopecia context, dealing with DHT, dealing with testosterone, it does not really move the needle, unfortunately.
I noticed a difference. A couple of people have actually asked me, hey, did you, you look like you have more hair. And the thing I really want to tell you is I have not dyed my hair, not once. So that's probably in the last 2 years. So I didn't want, obviously when you dye your hair, it looks like you have more hair. I haven't put any hair dye. I do have some gray in my hair, but it is what it is. And I have stopped dyeing my hair. So whatever you're seeing on my head that has increased is because of this product. So I try to do it, whenever I do a kind of a review, or I want to see if something works, I only do one thing. I don't change 10 different things. If I do change 10 different things, I don't know which variable is actually working and not working. So if you guys want to give it a shot, check out their website. Huge15 will give you 15% off your order.
Okay, so if he's having some repigmentation and stuff, that's cool. Obviously that would be useful in itself. I don't know if that's actually the case. I just know from an androgenic alopecia standpoint, it doesn't seem to be too effective unless he's the first one who it's really moving the needle for. Getting their website, let's see, where's the Ben Greenfield? There it is. The effects are so profound, they are a must-add. 5 stars. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Looks like some 5-star reviews. Your GHK, blah, blah. Notice your skin looks better. Okay, let's see how much this shit costs. Go to the shop. Holy fucking shit, dude. 250 bucks? Is this a year's worth? 90-day supply. God damn, dude. Okay, so when you apply the 15% coupon code, you're looking at just north of 200 bucks still. Let's see, so we have this is a video explaining it. 5.5 minutes.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jay Campbell, co-founder of Acier Custom, and I'm here to do this video. Spray it into my scalp. My daughter is gonna videotape me. So 1, 2, okay, so I just 2 sprays, right? You can see it. It's like a purple solution into my scalp. And I am now pushing this in. I'm gently massaging it. Okay, you see? into the areas that I have loss. Okay. I'm getting it into my scalp, and I'm ensuring that it's in my scalp. It's a gentle.
I don't know. I don't see any before and afters, bro. Like, where are the before and after pictures? Where are the phototrichograms? Where is the evidence that it's done anything whatsoever? Like personally, this is the kind of stuff I would like. The main reason why I don't like this stuff too is not just because it's cost prohibitive and it's speculative. It's more so that it oftentimes these individuals that promote this stuff encourage you to not use pharmaceuticals that are tried and true and have been proven for fucking decades at this point. Like, they will, swear off, inhibition of DHT as the devil and then tell you to use some speculative, brand new research chemical that is supposedly great because it can cause revascularization based on a fucking rodent model or something. That's the kind of shit that's annoying, because you let people lose ground while they're using speculative treatments that don't really move the needle in an androgenic alopecia context whatsoever and get fucked. And then before, they're 5 years in the toilet of lost hair follicles and they have to try and regain ground that they otherwise could have just kept if they were on a tried and true regimen from day one. So again, it's cheaper and it's more effective to get on a very basic compound that is, FDA approved, has millions of fucking people using it. Again, is the ROI 100% positive where there's no chance of side effects? Of course not. Go watch my Should You Take Finasteride video, yes or no. There is definitely a dark side to these compounds and pharmaceuticals, 100%. But that doesn't mean just because you may encounter a side effect, perhaps if you're super prone and you have no other alternatives, then you start to look at more speculative options. Totally up for, that kind of a discussion. But again, if you're on a budget, how many individuals have $250 to throw at something that has no before and afters, no phototrichograms, no fucking anything to really support that it's doing what it does? It's not the best use of money, in my opinion, when there's other things that definitely move the needle for a fact that, oh, here's the before and afters. My results after only 1 month are astonishing. Okay, this looks pretty solid. Page not found. Okay, let me go back here. What the fuck? This guy has a shaved head and then he grows it out and he says it worked. You have a shaved head, bro. How's that a fucking example? Okay, a girl that has a bald spot on an area not affected by androgens whatsoever, I would disregard entirely. These pictures are it's kind of fucking hard to tell, man. For me, I like to see physical hair count differences. I don't just want to see random photos used in different environments with different fucking lighting and shit, using areas behind the ear of some chick. I want to see an actual hair count difference in a phototrichogram before and after to actually prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that per fucking square inch of scalp, you have more hairs in that area for the amount of money that I'm spending on this shit, ultimately. So anyways, my overall stance is I don't think there's enough evidence to support that this shit is a good first thing to defer to. I would still defer to the tried and true compounds that we know move the needle, the big three. And then from there, you start to delve into, if you want to, try and move the needle more with other, growth agonists that may have promise, then sure, start to experiment if you have the budget for it. But personally, for me, this does not fall into the category of stimulatory agents I found to be useful personally. So what should you be focusing on? Personally, I think the main vectors that you should be addressing are 5-alpha reductase inhibition, or at least evaluating, maybe the ROI isn't there for you based on your current hormonal state, your current endocrine balance, etc. But ultimately, that is the thing that is going to retain your hair status right now and give you the highest likelihood of completely mitigating any further miniaturization. Above and beyond that, addressing the androgen receptor specifically with topical anti-androgens, perhaps selective androgen receptor degraders might be in the future too. These are things that are very interesting that are being evaluated right now as well. Although I think the selective, androgen receptor antagonists are more promising in that we understand them more thoroughly, and cumulatively in unison with 5-alpha reductase inhibition, you can more easily handle the subsequent spike in scalp testosterone that accompanies 5-AR blockade with a relatively benign topical AA like CB0301 potentially. RU, a more aggressive and experimental route, but ultimately things that are going to be approved soon, hopefully, like CB are in the pipeline, and there are other anti-androgens that may be useful and efficacious as well. I believe one of the most hyped one recently was pyrolutamide. Might have a different name than that, I forget, but that is another viable thing to be evaluating potentially. Above and beyond that, growth stimulant vector, minoxidil, things that enhance sulfotransferase enzyme activity with the minoxidil in conjunction with it, in compounding it with tretinoin, microneedling, etc. Those are the things that are going to move the needle and make you, if you catch it early enough, prevent you from losing fucking anything to begin with. Yeah, so that's my stance still. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have you ever tried GHK Copper or C60? Not necessarily even these products, but just like in general. Have you tried this shit? Have you evaluated it? What did you think? Have you tried it for anything other than the applications outlined, like for actual, health processes, injury recovery, etc.? Managing oxidative stress potentially. Like, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. As well as my recommended hair loss prevention, minoxidil preparation, non-greasy formats. Some of these, are so filled with propylene glycol, they make your hair look like goddamn shit, unfortunately. Like the Kirkland stuff, all but cost effective. It does make your hair look very, very bad, unfortunately. Microneedling device I use, recommended place to get a consult for discussing if something like finasteride may be a viable treatment option for you. Stuff like that, you can find it all in the video description below, as well as the clothing company that sponsors me, supplements, Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas, my recommended diet model for muscle growth and sports performance, whilst being mindful of micronutrient intake, gut health, sleep hygiene, etc. And anything else I'm associated with, it is all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.